The News Day continues here on One News Now Business. I'm Diego Castro. Here are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate fronts. Analysts say economic growth likely picked up in the third quarter. A Businessworld poll of 18 analysts yielded a median GDP growth estimate of 4.9% just for the July to September period. That's slightly faster than the 4.3% growth posted in the second quarter, but slower than the 7.7% in the third quarter of 2022. Analysts say a recovery in government spending as well as steady household consumption likely drove growth in the third quarter. However, persistent inflation and elevated interest rates may have tempered economic expansion. The Philippine Statistics Authority is set to release the latest GDP growth data on November 9. The Finance Department sees the country Philippines achieving its growth and fiscal targets in the medium-term fiscal framework. Finance Chief Ben Diokno cited a better-than-expected revenue and spending performance, with debt to GDP and deficit to GDP ratios likely to, quote, be less than expected. As of end June, the government's debt as a share of GDP stood at 61%, still above the 60% threshold, considered manageable by multilateral lenders for developing economies. The government targets to end the year with a 61.2% debt to GDP ratio and bring it to below 60% by 2025. Meanwhile, the deficit to GDP ratio stood at 4.8% as of end June. The government has set a budget deficit ceiling of almost 1.5 trillion pesos for 2023, equivalent to 6.1% of the GDP. The Development Budget Coordination Committee said on Friday that it maintains optimism on reaching its macroeconomic goals for this year. President Bongbong Marcos and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida forged new agreements to strengthen ties between Tokyo and Manila. The two leaders witnessed the exchange of key agreements focused on economic development and development cooperation. Kishida visited the Metro Manila Subway project to be funded by Japan International Cooperation Agency. The visit aims to highlight Japan's crucial role in developing Philippine transportation. Aside from economic and development deals, the Philippines and Japan also exchanged deals on security cooperation. Kishida visited the Philippine Coast Guard and BRP Teresa Magbanwa, which the country acquired with Tokyo's help. Meanwhile, the Philippine and Japanese Coast Guard also discussed plans for joint trainings. The two agencies also talked about regularizing the conduct of trilateral exercises with the United States. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Diego Castro. After a nearly 3-decade wait, traders will finally be able to short sell stocks in the Philippines. A selection of 52 stocks and one exchange-traded fund encompassing all equities listed on the benchmark index will become accessible for short selling. This comes following regulatory approval of a proposal initially put forth by the Philippine Stock Exchange back in 1996. Short selling is a trading strategy that allows investors to bet on the price of a given stock falling. It involves an investor borrowing shares and selling them at one price, then buying the same number of shares at a lower price, later to return them to the lender. The PSE, however, is limiting short selling to stocks that belong to the PSE Index, Mid-Cap Index, Dividend Yield Index, and exchange-traded funds. Motorists should expect a sigh of relief as fuel pump prices are expected to be rolled back this week. UniOil is projecting that local diesel prices could be slashed by up to 1 peso and 20 centavos per liter. Gasoline, meanwhile, could see a decrease of up to 60 centavos per liter. Oil companies usually announce price adjustments every Monday to be implemented the following day. The Agriculture Department assures that there will be a sufficient supply of key agriculture commodities this holiday season. DA spokesperson Arnel de Mesa said there's enough supply of agri-products like rice, pork, chicken, and sugar to last until the end of the year. He added that favorable weather conditions have led to record rice production of 20 million metric tons. And with the recent harvest and supply of imports, the DA is set to achieve a 90-day national stock inventory heading into 2024. For pork and chicken, the agency said a combination of local production and imports will meet the holiday demand. And those are the top business stories of the hour. I'm Diego Castro. Join us again at 2 p.m. We are One News, all sides, all the time.